Everyone, this is Molly again. I'm doing this video because I kind of wanted to, kind of touch up on a few things on my previous post. I feel like this is a really good time to kind of do this. This past weekend, Mac Miller just died of an overdose, and a couple weeks ago, Demi Lovato, she overdosed and went to the hospital. So I feel like this is a really good time to do this because everyone's paying attention again. So I kind of just wanted to kind of elaborate more on some things. Like, I wanted to kind of go back from like the very beginning to kind of to where I am now. So I'll try to make this as quick as possible. It might be a little long, but hopefully it'll be helpful. So in November of 2015 is when I initially, and we'll just call him Michael again, that was a really strange time in my life. I'd just gotten out of a horrible, terrible relationship. There was a lot of emotional, verbal, and some physical abuse in that. So it was just toxic and horrible. And it was a really strange time in my life because that relationship ended maybe 2 months before I met him. And I wasn't really over it. I didn't really get any help for the abuse that happened. I didn't really talk to anyone about it. So that kind of just got swept right under the rug. As I mentioned in my article, I do have bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder. So I know a lot of people might not know what borderline is, so I'll actually get on my phone here and kind of just read what it is. Hang on one second. Definition is a mental disorder characterized by unstable moods, behavior, and relationships, which all that I can check off. Let's see. Let's go a little bit more in depth. So you may experience some of these behavioral issues like antisocial behavior, compulsive behavior, hostility, impulsivity, irritability, risk-taking behaviors, self-destructive behavior, self-harm, social isolation, or a lack of restraint. Some things with your mood is anger, anxiety, general discontent, guilt, loneliness, mood swings or sadness. Psychological is depression, distorted self-image, grandiosity, or narcissism. And thoughts of suicide are common as well. Also, there's chronic feeling of emptiness, just things like that. So I suffer with that. At the time, I don't think I was medicated. I don't think I was taking anything at that time. So that also didn't help me at all. So basically, I met Michael in November of 2015, and we basically started living together like right away. Like the day we met, we started living with each other basically, which was really fast and probably not very healthy at all. We had no space apart. We were with each other all the time, which at the time I thought was great, but hindsight 2020, it's not healthy. So I noticed, it's funny actually, the first night we hung out, he got pulled over on his way to come meet me at his house. And he picked up some painkillers from someone. And he was like, yeah, I had 2 painkillers. I had to eat them both because I got pulled over. And I was like, huh. I mean, at the time, I didn't really care. I was like, yeah, whatever. And he was like, well, I would have given you one. We could have done it together if you wanted to. So that was red flag number 1 that I just chose to ignore because I thought, some people do that casually. I do it casually. So, there's not a problem there. I would say maybe a week or two after we met, we would do coke a lot. He had friends and stuff who could get that, so we did partake in that. And then I met his cousin. At the time, had his own tattoo shop where they were living, and he got a lot of drugs. He would get painkillers, coke, he would get meth sometimes. But at that time in particular, they were getting a lot of painkillers. So that's what we were doing. I didn't really think too much of it at all. I thought, I'm not going to do anything worse than this. This is about as far as I go, really, which that's not true at all. Then actually, the night before we went to go look at the apartment that we all eventually moved into, we were up all night doing meth in the basement of the shop. That's just what we did. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be a one-time thing, okay. And then the week before we moved into the apartment was Easter, and we went over to a family member's house, and they had crack, so we smoked crack on Easter. Again, I kind of thought it would be just a one-time thing, no big deal, really. Again, I was wrong. Those are red flags number 2 and 3. Well, really, I guess 4 that I kind of chose to ignore. And at this time, I would notice that he was more into painkillers than I was. Like, if he didn't get them, he would get really irritable and sick and just kind of shitty. So I think he needed them. Looking back, I think that he was already hooked on painkillers. And I think I noticed it too. I just chose to ignore it because I was just head over heels, like just, in love, I guess. So basically, we move into the apartment, which was out of their town where they had all the connections and stuff like that. So they couldn't really get any painkillers. And when we first moved in, that's like one of the first things they talked about is like, well, I don't know anyone down here who can get painkillers, and I was like, okay, so you don't get any. I didn't realize how bad it was for them, for those. I mean, I definitely wasn't hooked on the painkillers at all. I didn't do them that often. So, I'm trying to think. So yeah, we moved into the apartment, and for about a month, everything's great. We're making it homey, and we're all hanging out together, and we're having a good time. Levi's working at a new shop. Yeah, I mean, everything's great. Michael and I were getting along. And then one of Levi's old clients that he had, he would tattoo them in exchange for painkillers. He knew some guy on the west side who dealt drugs. So that's how Levi came into connection with the heroin, was through this guy. And that's how he started getting it at first. I think he was getting it for a long time before I knew, before Michael knew. I think he was doing it for a while, which I didn't realize. Looking back, I wish I would have known and I could have helped and maybe I could have stopped him. But yeah, I think it was about April. It was like the end of April. And Michael worked at a liquor store, and even before I met him, he would basically drink every day to get drunk, blackout drunk, which I hated it. I didn't even drink. I still don't drink. I hate alcohol. I won't drink it. It doesn't really do much for me still. He was a definite alcoholic. He drank every single day. He was drunk every day. Which again, that's something I chose to ignore. I don't know why, but I did. I thought he had it under control. He definitely didn't. So, and I think at this time, we weren't really getting along too well, because to him, and we'd been together for, let's see, December, January, February, March, for about 5 or 6 months at that point. So I thought we were in a relationship. He didn't see it that way. We just saw each other every single day. We lived together, shared the same bed. I took him to work and picked him up. We had sex. We had a relationship. But to him, it wasn't a relationship. So this was a really depressing time for me, because, I thought that we were good together. I thought we were best friends, and he just didn't want to be together officially at that time, which didn't make sense to me. So the borderline part of me, it really upset me. Yeah. So I was mad at him a lot for drinking every day and getting blackout drunk. And, he would text me while I was working and say, yeah, when you get home, we'll do this. We'll eat food. We'll, watch this TV show. We'll hang out. When I would get home, he'd be blackout drunk. So I would get really upset. So on this particular day, I remember I was really upset. And, Levi and I were talking, and he just basically asked me if I wanted to try heroin, since he was asleep and he wouldn't know. And again, it was kind of like a slight at him, like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm not going to tell him and he's not going to know. Ha 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 ha. It was kind of petty and stupid, but whatever. So we did it, but I mean, I can't lie. It didn't feel great. That's why I kept doing it, because it felt so good. But yeah, so I did that, and we were just hanging out. Him and I were just talking for a couple hours, and I was kind of, nodding off, and he was like, yeah, it's good, isn't it? And that's when he told me he's been doing it, and I was, I wasn't really worried at the time, because I didn't know how. Now I realize he was doing it every day, but again, that's something I wish I would have known before I did it. So Michael woke up, and, me and Levi were fucked up, and I think he knew that something was up, but he didn't ask, and I didn't tell him. So we just went about our night. We were just kind of dicking around the apartment, because it was new. We hadn't been to the gym yet, so we went to the gym and messed around on the treadmills, and we were outside smoking cigarettes and talking, and I felt good, and I know Levi felt good, and at the time I was like, he still doesn't know, I feel way better than him. So that was kind of stupid to do that, just to try and, spite him, or, I don't know. It's just my mental illness, I feel like, got the better of me in that situation. My mental illness took over my rational thinking, So after the first night, the next day, I got off work. Levi was there. He was like, so, like, do you want to go get more of that? We'll do it this weekend. And just this weekend, again, it was, just this weekend. So I was like, yeah. So we got in my car, went to the west side of town, picked it up at a White Castle parking lot on 86th and Michigan, so the west side. So we did that. We picked Michael up from work. Oh, wait, no. We did that. We came back home, did some, and then went and picked Michael up from work. And again, I didn't think he knew at this point. But I think he'd been doing it behind my back too at that point, and I've been doing it behind his back at that point, and we both didn't know, which is kind of stupid. But yeah, that's how it was. And then I think the next week we all just were like, yeah, this is stupid. Let's just do it all together. You know, we're all friends. We'll all share. We'll have a good time. That's not what happened. So about a month into it, you know, we were all doing it together. We'd go pick it up and buy it, and I could tell pretty quickly that we would get possessive of, you know, what we bought. Like, no, you know, we bought more than you, so we should have more than you, or, you know, this is ours, and we'd hide it. And, you know, if Levi was out, we would, you know, say, oh, sorry, we don't have any, you know, just be sneaky and kind of shitty. But again, that's what addiction does to you. It makes you selfish and mean-spirited, and it turns you into kind of a monster, a prick, you know. It makes you very selfish, which I'm not normally a selfish person, but I was very selfish when it came to that. Only Michael and I, you know, could use what we had, no one else. So, yeah, and Michael and I's relationship at that point was getting horrible. He would get drunk and get belligerent, and we would get into screaming matches, you know, because I would get mad at him for something that you would get mad at a boyfriend for, but we weren't really still together at that point, still in the same bed, still together every day, spending time together, still, you know, having sex, but no, we weren't boyfriend and girlfriend, which was stupid. Yeah, I would get so mad, and that's the borderline part of me, because I felt like he was gonna abandon me. That's another thing about borderline personality disorder, is you have a constant fear of abandonment, even if it's real or just imagined. You always feel like they're gonna leave you no matter what. And I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle being left, abandoned. So I wanted to make sure that he didn't do that, and I think it kind of pushed him away at that point, and he was not ready. Which, you know, looking back now, I don't blame him. You know I was kind of crazy, but yeah, we weren't getting along at all. And then, but yeah, at this time, everything was still good. You know, I was getting tattooed all the time. I was going shopping. I had my car. I had my job was still going great. Everything was just picture perfect. Well, on the outside. Yeah, the end of June, it was a Sunday. We were getting messed up all day. I think we gotten coke and heroin the night before. So we were doing both, which is extremely stupid, extremely dangerous. You don't want to do that. You know, your heart can stop. You'll kill yourself if you do too much. But we weren't worried about that, obviously. So we were doing that, and we were all like, yeah, let's go to dinner. You know, let's go try and eat something. Let's go to Texas Roadhouse. You know, we have money. Because at that point, we were all working a lot, and we were bringing in good money. So it was like a big party, 24/7. Always had something. Always had drugs. We always had heroin or coke or something, you know. So we went to eat, and one of Michael's family members came over, you know, just to hang out. He also did partake in doing the drugs with us. Which again, another red flag. I ignored. So yeah, I'll never forget it. I did a line of coke. And then like maybe 5 minutes later, this light bulb went off in my head that, oh, you know, you haven't had your period in a while, because I wasn't on birth control at that time. So, you know, I've had pregnancy scares before, and I was like, I'm going to take this test. It's going to be, you know, hopefully it'll be negative. But I thought that on the way over there. So walking over there, you know, I was thinking, it's probably nothing. I'm just being a worrywart. So I went and bought the test, but then things started clicking for me. You know, I've been feeling kind of sick lately, and I noticed the day before I threw up right after I smoked a cigarette. And apparently now I guess that's a symptom of pregnancy. Like if you smoke while you're pregnant, you'll get sick after. So I kind of started to think about that, and I thought, that's weird. And then that's when, and I think the Coke too was making me more hyper aware and like of what was going on and what was probably going on. So I took the test, I waited around, and it came back positive. My heart stopped. I couldn't think, I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. Before I called him in, I wanted to sit and think about, you know, my options and what I could do. He already has a son. Michael does. He was, I think, 8 at the time or so. He didn't see him that often at all. He didn't live with us. He lived with family members and his mom. So he didn't see him that often, which was sad looking back. I feel like heroin also took Michael away from his son when he needed to spend time with him at that point. And that makes me really sad thinking about too. And I feel guilty about that. I do. So it came back positive, and before that we'd actually have had a conversation about what would happen if he were to get me pregnant, because he already has a kid. So he always told me that he was pro-choice. He was totally anti-abortion. He would never ask someone to get one. He would never expect anyone to give up a child. So I thought about that, and I was like, okay, you know, I'm gonna have a kid. And then I think we're going to be together and we're going to be happy and we're going to stop using, because at this point we were only maybe 2 months in, so we could have stopped. I feel like if it were different, the outcome would have been different. I would have stopped that day and I would have gotten clean, and I would have a 2-year-old right now, which is crazy to think about. So yeah, you know, I was ready for that and I wanted to do that. And I started to feel connected right after I knew, you know, there was a baby inside me. Yeah. You know, I loved it already. So, I called him into the bathroom. And, you know, he was, you know, because I was yelling, like, you know, you know, come in here. And he thought, he came in the bathroom and was like, what, is there a spider in here or something? And I was like, no. I pointed to the test, and he was like, are you serious? I was like, look at it. He looked at it for a minute. And, you know, I was sitting on the toilet crying because I was still nervous and scared, and, you know, I guess I didn't know what he was going to say. Then he, you know, sat down next to me on the shower, and he said, I can't have another kid with you. And yeah, that really hurt me. Because I wasn't expecting it. You know, it was like the wind got knocked out of me. I couldn't believe what he said. So, you know, I said, you know, what? I thought that you were against that. He said, no, not in this situation. I can't do it. You know, he said, I don't think I would be able to love another one as much as I love mine already. So I was devastated. You know, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do that. And I told him no. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I want to keep this. I want to have it. He said, you know, I don't want to do this, but if you do that, I can't be with you. I won't be with you. So for the next couple hours, he was kind of coaxing me into going along with it. But I was so depressed that I felt like there was something wrong with me. You know, he didn't love me. He didn't want to be with me. He didn't. So it really hurt me. Yeah, all night. I just said, can you please just reconsider? Please just sleep on it, you know? And he didn't. You know, he called Planned Parenthood for me the next day and set up the appointment. It took a couple weeks to go and get that set up. Every day I would ask him if he changed his mind, if he could change his mind. You know, we don't have to do this. We can still, you know, get clean. We can have this. We can be a family. He had no interest or desire to do it at that point. Yeah. And plus he would kind of guilt trip me into saying, well, we can't have it now. You're still using. What if it comes out deformed, or, you know, something's wrong with it? You know, I would blame you forever if we did have it and, you know, it was messed up because it's your fault because you wouldn't stop using. But I told him I would have stopped using if we were going to have it. I think he knew that I couldn't stop using because I was already addicted to it and I didn't want to be sick. So I feel like that's something that he used against me frequently. But yeah, I mean, looking back on it now, I did make the right, I mean, I don't even want to say that because it still hurts me. I still hate myself over it. I'm still ashamed. You know, I get really upset about it still to this day because it's not how I wanted my life to go. It's not what I wanted to have happen in my life. You know, I've always wanted to be a mom. And I couldn't believe that, you know, I made that choice. Again, that's what heroin does. It makes you into a different person, a person that you hate and you are not. So we had the procedure. Things went downhill from there because I was so depressed and I wasn't happy with myself. I wasn't happy with what I'd done. I hated myself. You know, I felt like an evil person. So yeah, you know, I couldn't get over it. I couldn't move past it. You know, I was still in mourning. You know, I loved it, and that's what I did. But looking back now, that was the right choice for that moment. And I think about it now, it's like, well, you know, what if we would have kept it and I wouldn't have stopped using, or I would have started using again after I had it? And, you know, like, what kind of mom would I be on heroin? So I'm glad that I didn't have to go through that with a newborn, or, you know, while pregnant, or, you know, I think 2020, that was the right choice for that situation. Even though I hate it, it was the best thing to do for that child because it wouldn't have been asked to be born into a horrible situation with parents that were using heroin. No, I would have felt even worse. And I'm going to talk more about that probably in a later article because I know that's kind of something you can't, you know, you have to talk about by itself. So after that, I was really depressed. And then actually the day after I found out I was pregnant, I had my final interview for this job promotion that I wanted, and I fucking got it. You know, just found out I was pregnant. I was still on heroin. I was fucked up, you know, from finding that out. and I got the job. I couldn't believe it. So that was one good thing that happened at that time. So I was in my new position and I was having a great time. I was still really depressed. I hated myself. But I think after that, Michael and I's relationship got better. I think we did become closer. We did actually become a couple. So at that point, we were officially together. But we were still fighting a lot. And I think it was the drugs that made us fight about stupid shit. And plus, he was drunk all the time. I know it's hard to be with an alcoholic when they get drunk and mad. And sometimes he was a really angry drunk. Let's see. October of 2016 is the first time I shot up on my birthday. That was just supposed to be another one-time thing. They were never going to let me do it again. Well, that's what we started doing, because between like June and October, like we'd have to buy more and more of it because us just snorting it wasn't getting the job done anymore. You know, we would go into withdrawal faster. We'd have to do more. So we thought, okay, like if we switched to shooting it up, you know, we'd stay high longer. We wouldn't get sick quicker. We'd use less. Or so we thought. That's not what ended up happening at all. I don't really remember it. I think I did too much and I blacked out for a while because I don't remember a lot. That kind of sealed my fate, I think. I wish I never would have picked that up, but there was the people we were around, you know. Levi had started shooting up before us, and he was like, man, why don't you guys try this? And I don't know why none of us said out loud, guys, this is a bad idea. We shouldn't be doing this. I think we all individually thought about it in our own heads, but we didn't say anything out loud. So yeah, we started doing that. I started slacking off at work. I would nod off. I was irritable. I didn't show up a lot of the times because I didn't have heroin to wake up in the morning. That happened a lot. If at that point I was hooked, physically hooked, I had to have it or else I couldn't do anything. And I'll never forget the first time I got dope sick. I felt sweaty and nauseous, and I was shaky, and my muscles hurt, and like my hair hurt, like everything hurt. I threw up, you know, I was like shaking. I was like, what is wrong with me? And they told me, you're dope sick, you know, go do a line, you'll feel better. And I did. And I think once I got hooked, I knew I couldn't stop. I couldn't feel, you know, I didn't have, you know, a week to get over being sick from heroin. I just didn't, you know, because I didn't have time to, you know, I couldn't miss work. You know, I just thought that I could just get through this. You know, I would, you know, wean off little by little. I would do it that way. It didn't work. You know, I didn't want to miss work. I didn't want to, you know, make it look like there was something wrong. Still at this time, you know, everything was great on the outside. Everything was great. Picture perfect life. And I kept it hidden I don't know how I kept it hidden for so long. On my birthday, still no one knew. And my family knew I was using. I think they might have suspected stuff. No one asked me. So yeah, around November is when shit started to hit the fan. Levi was not working as much. Michael was not working as much. I was the only one working full time. So I was paying the rent, paying the bills, food, gas, cigarettes. I was buying the dope for Michael and I. And my money was running out. I had already started draining my 401k to pay for everything. Yeah. So in December, my money was basically running out. I told my family what was going on, and they said, okay, you need to get help. I agreed. they sent me to a detox facility a couple days before Christmas. I'd taken FMLA out, which is Family Medical Leave Act, so I could have time to get better. So I wasn't making money because I wasn't working. Michael lost his job because he overdosed in the bathroom. So we weren't working. Levi had left at that point, so it was just us two together trying to scrape up money to live and get high. And, it was like basically a full-time job. Getting high is a full-time job. Staying high is a full-time job. You're always constantly, okay, what's my next move? Okay, I got this, but we're going to need more tomorrow. So what are we going to do? It's just constantly, every single day, okay, we got it. You have to get the dope, do it, try to save it, get more. It's just a repeating cycle every day, every single day. It doesn't stop. It never stops. So, I went to a detox center for about 3 or 4 days. It didn't work. I just laid in bed and detoxed for 4 days straight. Didn't get up, didn't eat, didn't do anything. So they discharged me. The first thing I did when I got back was shoot up. That week after Michael tried to go to a facility to get help, he left early. So, it was just us trying to stay well, is what we would say. We got to stay well. So yeah, in January, for some reason, my family thought that going to that detox facility helped, and it didn't. I was still using. So, we went to go see Garth Brooks in Cincinnati, which is our favorite, Michael and I's favorite artist, It should have been a lot more exciting, but we were too worried about how we were going to get heroin to go. He blacked out in the bathroom when we got there because we had to, we had to go shoot up because we had a long car ride and we were getting sick. And I think everyone knew at that point, everyone knew there was something wrong. They just knew, and I knew they knew. So, actually, when we left Cincinnati, my brother-in-law, called my phone and was like, I know you guys are doing this again. You need to get help. Or, you know what? I think he knew that he knew that we had done stuff in the bathroom at their house before we left to Cincinnati. And I feel horrible about that. I knew I shouldn't have done that. But again, you do shit you would not do. I felt so bad. I felt horrible. So they knew. So my family knew. So they were kind of I didn't realize it, but behind the scenes, they were looking for somewhere I could go to get inpatient treatment. Because I think that was the only thing that was going to work. I couldn't go to another detox facility. It wouldn't work. Oh my God, this is so long. Okay, I'm going to try and wrap it up. So yeah, basically the whole month of January, we were just trying to stay well. Just trying. That's when we overdosed in my car. The day after Garth Brooks, somehow we got in Xanax. And we were taking them all day just to sleep off the withdrawal because we didn't have any more dope. Until that night, our dealer called us and yeah, you can come through. And he was fronting us. We didn't have any money, but he was fronting us because I was getting more money out of my 401k. It just hadn't come in yet. So we went down there. We were fucked up on Xanax. And it's weird to say, but I was actually close with the dealer's girlfriend. She was really nice to me. We talked, she was upset about what I was doing to my body and, how my life was going. And, at that point, my arms were all scabbed up and had track marks and were just bruised to hell. Horrible. And she was like, look at your arms. What are you doing to yourself? And I was just like, I don't know. I was like a zombie. I didn't know. So yeah, we got our stuff. We went out to my car. We parked it in a different spot in the apartment complex, and we shot up. And then that's the last thing I remember. And then I woke up 2 or 3 hours later in my car with it running in the same spot. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, I must, like, and I knew it automatically, okay, I OD'd. And then I look over and, it didn't seem like he was breathing at all. So I was shaking him and yelling and slapping him, and then he finally woke up and he was confused, and yeah, that was really scary. That was really scary. That's when I knew that I was either gonna get off heroin or I was gonna die. We would die if I didn't stop. So my family found a facility for me to go to called Bridges of Hope. It is an inpatient facility. The day before I went was really hard because I knew that he wasn't going to go to treatment. He was just going to withdraw in his room by himself. And at that point, we were so attached. And so, we needed each other. We were so codependent. We couldn't live without each other at that point. That's how our relationship eventually got, because it was just him and I, through the hard times, through the sickness, through, the good times. It was really hard for us to be apart because we didn't know what to do. It was just us for so long. So I almost felt bad for leaving him behind because I wanted him to get the same help I was getting, So yeah, I went to treatment, and, when I got there, I was the only one there, which was really weird to me. Like, I knew they just opened, but I figured there'd be a bunch of people in there already, but it was just me. I was the first one. So that was kind of nice. That was, a good situation for me to walk into. I went there, and I was there for over 30 days, and I made it through. And, Michael got clean too on his own, which was, again, it's amazing because not a lot of people are able to kick heroin just cold turkey. And I'll always be proud of him for that and give him props. He had it way harder than I did. I was on medication for withdrawal, Suboxone, at the time. So that helped me with my withdrawal, and I was able to, feel normal again and feel okay. But he didn't, and he was a really strong person for being able to do that. So I'll always be proud of him for that. While I was in rehab, he did have a relapse with alcohol, which devastated me, told me he wasn't going to do it again. And while I was in there, I kind of was a leader for everyone that was in there after me. I was the one leading the groups and, just like giving all the examples and, trying to help out and give my input and, just kind of being a leader. And that's when I really realized that that was kind of like my thing. It was, it's just a skill. I always thought I was a follower. I never thought I could be a leader. So that was one thing getting sober helped me realize is, I can be a good role model and I can be a good influence on people and I can help people. So that was really, that was a cool thing I never knew about myself that I learned through getting sober. When I was done with the inpatient thing, I went to go live at the halfway house that they had there. Michael was upset that I wasn't coming home immediately, and something I learned in there was, I couldn't worry about him. I had to worry about myself. If I took the focus off myself and just worried about him, I don't think I'd be clean today. I don't think we would have stopped. So we had to do it together, but separately. And, we did. We got through it. I left the halfway house. We were still good. He had a couple relapses with drinking after, and that really upset me too. But again, no hard drugs, so I wasn't that mad, but I thought he was a worse alcoholic than a drug addict because he was. So yeah, after the halfway house, I was going to meetings every day and I had a job and life was pretty much like back to normal. And then our relationship just fell apart. I think it was being sober, because we weren't really sober the whole time we were together until we got off heroin. So I think we didn't really know who each other was, and we just fell apart. And I thought that would I thought when it first happened that I was going to relapse, because I didn't know what I was going to do without him, because we were so attached and so just like enmeshed. It was kind of sick. We were too codependent on each other. But I got through that too, because I don't want to fuck up my life again. And that's the thing. Like, I didn't wake up and want to be a heroin addict. It happened because of my untreated mental illness, because the drug made me feel like I could do no wrong. I wasn't, I had control and eventually the drug shows you didn't have control the whole time. And that's the tricky thing about it. You can't do it once. And I feel like a nerd saying that, but you really can't. Like, you don't want to go down that path, because it will lead you down that path. So that's pretty much it. I'm sorry for this being so long, but there was just like a lot of things that I wanted to, explain and stuff. And, I'm going on I think it's 584 days now sober. So I'm really proud of myself, and I'm growing every day, and I learn new things about myself still all the time. So being sober, actually, this is the longest I've been sober in years, probably. It's amazing. I've never been this clear or level-headed in my life. And I just got a new job in the medical field again, which is awesome. I'm planning on going back to school for social work, and so I can, help other people in my situation, because I realize that this is what I want to spend the rest of my life doing, helping people who need help, because they're not, they're not losers, and they're not doing it on purpose, and they need help. A lot of people can't get help, and I want to make sure that every single person who still suffers with addiction can get help when they need it. That's my goal in life. That's what I want to do. Again, I'm always willing to talk to anybody. If you're having problems, or someone that's having problems, I would love to give you my insight and maybe offer some advice on it. That's what I want to do. I want to help people. Yeah. And if anyone has any questions for me, my Facebook is Molly Curran, and my Instagram is Dudefus. It's like doofus, but with dude. It's DUDEFUS. And that's it. Thank you for watching this, and thank you for reading the article, and everyone's feedback has just been so amazing and positive and encouraging, and I love it. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to get hate mail and hate messages, but everyone has just been so amazing, and I just want to thank everyone again for being so awesome and taking the time to read this and share it, and get the word out there and spread this awareness, because people are still dying every day, and I don't want to stop until the opiate epidemic is fixed, basically. So thank you all. Have a great day.